Thank you, Millie. Well, today might be a 2 Kleenex talk. As many of you know, my mother passed away on August 17th, and I'm so grateful for all the cards and condolences I got. And I thought today that we would talk about savoring life in the context of the relationship we have with our parents. Sometimes that relationship is wonderful and supportive and encouraging and keeps us going, and other times that relationship is awful and brings us down. And many of you met my mom. She loved to come here. She sat in the choir one time and had to sing. She thought the Unity Choir was so cool. "Oh, Jan, do you think they'll have me?" And they were very kind. Thank you. And she came to live with me for a bit last year, and just every Sunday morning was so excited to get up and come to Unity, and there's so many people here, and everybody's so nice. "Oh, Jan, those Unity people, they're so sweet." She loved you all. And most of you probably got a crocheted cross from her, maybe 5, because she couldn't quite remember if she'd given you one or not, but I am appreciative that you pretended like it was the first time. Every time was the first. And so my mom was this dear, sweet little old lady. And I'd like to tell you that our relationship was all about hugs and happiness and just getting along. And the truth of it is that for a few years, a couple of decades, I didn't like her very much. And she didn't like me very much. And we didn't see eye to eye on most things. My mother and I were very, very different people. When I was growing up, I was very sickly, and she was a nurse, so she went into overdrive in trying to protect me. I had allergies, and I remember my mom as generally the party pooper. "No, don't do that. Don't eat that. Don't go outside." My mom was always about, don't do whatever it is you want to do. And as a 10-year-old, I thought, well, I don't want to live my life that way. That's silly. My mom was born in the Depression, and so she saw the world as a scary place. And she tried to form a secure world around her. And she wanted everyone to play in that structure of safety and security. And so, of course, I wanted to do exactly the opposite of that. I wanted adventure. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to go do fun things. I wanted to be unsafe. And my mother never quite understood why. I remember when I was 20 and I told her that I was going to India. Well, first of all, she couldn't understand why anybody would ever want to leave the great state of Texas. It has everything you need. But I went anyway, and she tried to be supportive in her own way, and she wanted to send me a care package. So she made her best banana bread and her cookies and all sorts of goodies to eat and some things from my room and everything, and bundled it all up. And I told her, "Mom, it's just not a good idea to try to send a package to the middle of India." And every day, she would write me a letter and say, "Did you get the package yet?" I never got the package. But a year and a half later, the package did come back to my mom. I am grateful to report that the banana bread and cookies were gone. So somebody in India had a really great time. And then they duct taped it all back together. It was kind of like one of those elementary science projects where you, out of duct tape, make a mountain that has a volcano at the top. And so, of course, my mom took a picture to let me know, got the package. So she just didn't really understand why someone would want to go any place but home. And so I just didn't understand her. I thought, what's wrong with her? I want to do the things that I want to do. There was another habit my mother had of talking. My mother would raise up in the morning and start to speak. And at the moment, just before her head hit the pillow, she would stop speaking. I know. I stayed with her a week, and I examined it as if it were a lab project. Is she really going to? How can somebody speak for that long without taking a breath? But indeed, she was able to do that on a regular basis, and it annoyed me to no end. I remember one time she was here visiting with my father, and we were at Union Station, and they had been here all week, and I just couldn't take it any longer. And I looked at my mother, and I said, "Mother, please, could we just have 5 minutes of silence?" And she went on to talk for 5 minutes about how I was trying to get her to stop talking. I never was able to solve that problem. We'd go to Luby's on Sunday after church, and in the cafeteria there must have been 200 people, and my mother knew 195 of them and felt like she couldn't leave until she had talked to everybody at Luby's. So Luby's became a 3-hour process on Sunday afternoon, much to everyone in my family's chagrin and embarrassment. And so I just didn't get my mom. She was so different than me, and I just wanted to live my life the way I wanted to, and I felt like she was always just criticizing me and telling me what I was doing was wrong. And some of it I was wrong. I started to be very selfish and spent a few years, maybe a couple of decades, just thinking about myself. And I did do things that were unsafe and unskillful. I wasn't a very good daughter. But I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I felt like my mother was just trying to hold me back, and that I didn't want to spend time with her because she irritated me. And so luckily, in 1991, I came in, found Unity Temple. Some of you guys know the story that my great spiritual realization came from needing to get married for the 3rd time on a specific weekend because my husband-to-be was a KU fan, and KU was away that weekend playing football. And so I had to find a chapel on that day in order to be able to get married in this year. 1991, October 5th. And I'd like to tell you that when I walked in this place that I immediately realized the error of my ways and I had found my spiritual home. So many people say that. It didn't happen. It took me another 5 years. I sort of snuck in the back and left before all that hand-holding thing happened. But slowly but surely, I came and I stayed. And I found from listening to the Unity principles, from hearing Duke talk, that maybe there was another way of living my life that might be a way with more purpose, more joy, more skillfulness. And so I credit Unity as changing the relationship that I have with my mom. Because before, I only saw her as this external source of irritation. And when I was able to reflect back, I know that what she was doing was because she loved me. So now this is the hard part. When I was in college, I had gone to a state school, and I wanted to study international relations, but I had to go away to a private school that cost 4 times as much, and my parents didn't have much money. So in my own usual, the way that I am usually irritating to people, I made a spreadsheet. I think everything pretty much in life can be broken down into a spreadsheet, so I made a little spreadsheet about convincing my parents on why I should go to a school that cost 4 times as much as the University of North Texas. Once again, the school I wanted to go to was outside of Texas. So I realized that I should go to my mom first. Ever do that? Kind of decide how you divide and conquer by splitting your parents up, knowing the strengths and weaknesses of each parent so that you can really manipulate them well and get exactly what you want. So I went to my mom with my spreadsheet, and I told her exactly why I thought this is what I wanted to do. And she grabbed me by the arm. She was in the kitchen, and my dad was out in the garage. She grabbed me by the arm, and she said, "Come on, Jan, we're going to go talk to your dad." And we went out into the garage. My dad was working on his tools and his woodworking. Jan has something to tell you. And I think you need to listen, because she's thought it out. And I think it's a good idea. And when my mother looked at my dad that way, that meant that whatever was a good idea, it was going to get done. And my dad knew from that moment that he didn't have a chance. And I did get to go to that school. And with scholarships and the fact that my mother worked for 4 additional years before she retired, I left school debt-free. And I'd like to tell you that I was so grateful for her at that moment. But dang it, I wasn't. I thought that's what parents are supposed to do. Aren't parents supposed to make sacrifices? I expected her to make sacrifices for me. And she did. And so it took me a couple of decades to be able to say thank you. Kleenex time. And then I just got to tell you this really sweet story. My dad died 10 years ago. And my mother was heartbroken. They were married 56 years, and they loved each other so much. And we really worried about whether or not she was actually going to make it or not. She might have died of a broken heart. And what was even more fascinating is that when we were going through her things, we found that she had kept a diary that she started the day after my dad died. And the very first sentence was, "Yesterday, the love of my life died. On my granddaughter's birthday." You got to cry about that. It was my daughter's birthday that my dad died. And my mother was thinking not only of herself and her own sorrow, but she was also thinking of how sad it was that now my daughter's birthday would also be so bittersweet because it was the day my dad died. And she said, "I have a hole in my heart that I don't think will ever be filled." And to see my mom's handwriting and to know her pain, it was very difficult to read. But here's the good part. She kept a diary for 2 years. And on the anniversary, when they would have been married 57 years, she wrote and she said, "My husband would have wanted me to get myself together, pull myself up by my bootstraps, and get on with life." And she did. She learned how to use a computer. Miracles do happen. She only knew how to do email. She didn't want to go out to that scary internet place. But she loved sending email, and she got to stay in contact with all these people that she had met throughout all of her years of volunteering and all the places that she had lived. She loved the fact that she learned to do email. She learned to pay her own bills. She learned to take care of the house, and she went back to volunteering. My mom was so proud of herself when she realized that she could do it on her own. And so I think the most amazing thing for me is when I think about savoring life, we sometimes think that we should only relish the parts that are good, only relish the joyful times and the times when things seem okay. But if you look back on your life, I would say most likely, savoring life is about savoring the good and the bad, the triumphs and the tragedies, because that is what makes life so amazing. If my mother had never gone that extra road to be able to find herself able to feel self-sufficient, no matter how hard it was, she felt proud and confident because of it. And how often do we ourselves find ourselves in situations where we are disappointed and depressed and feel like we can't go on, and there is a hole in our heart that cannot be filled? And how can we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and get going and realize this incredible power that we have within us to make a difference? And so I wanted to end with just 4 things that I took away in reflecting on my mom's and my relationship. First, that we should spell love T-I-M-E. Because spending time with people you love is the way that they know you care about them. At my mother's funeral, person after person after person came up and wanted to tell me how much my mom was always there. She always had time to talk and listen. And people felt that she was so fully present with them because she was willing to hear their stories, to remember everything about them, and to call them a friend. And so that which I found annoying about my mom was something that people found endearing about her, because she loved spending time with people she loved. And the second thing I've learned is that we need to be willing to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. My mom and I were very different. But when I go back and think about the life that she lived and the challenges and struggles that she had, I understand. I understand when she was crabby and tired and overworked, having 3 kids and working a full-time job. I understand because I took the time to finally imagine what it would have been like to walk a mile in her shoes. And I encourage us all that whoever you come in contact with, however you are interacting with them, to simply take a moment and imagine yourself in their shoes. And no matter what unskillful thing they might be saying or unskillful thing they might be doing, perhaps that will give you a little wisp of wisdom, of understanding and empathy about what they've gone through. The third thing I learned from my mom is never give up. She had 3 girls. We did everything wrong that girls can do. And she loved us anyway. She never gave up. She never gave up on herself. She never gave up on life. She continued to make friends up until the day she died. Never give up on yourself. You have a wealth of innate and unlimited power within you that is untapped and just waiting to be rediscovered. We all have that, and I am grateful for my mom not only telling me that, but showing me in her actions. And last, the great joy that we can get from serving others. My mom and dad always had a special project. My mother, even when she was 85, said, well, Jan, this afternoon I'm going to go to the old people's home and I'm going to sing to the old people. She had a tape ministry where she would sing a song and my daddy would read a Bible verse, and they'd send it out to people who were shut-ins and couldn't get to church that week. They gave, and they felt joyful about it. And each of us has that opportunity to give as well. We can serve each other in so many ways, and I encourage you to find a way to serve others because it is so joyfully, selfishly wonderful. And to also allow others to serve you. I think that was my mom's hardest thing. She loved to serve others, but she hated to ask for help. And so I hope I learned that being able to ask for help when I need it is really just as important as being willing to offer help to someone I love. And so for our meditation today, I thought we would simply sit in the silence. And on the front of the bulletin is the Lord's Prayer. And you might think about your own parents. The good stuff, the crappy stuff. But they made you who you are. And now you get to decide. You get to choose what you do with that. So let's take those thoughts into meditation. So as we give ourselves this precious time to just simply take a few slow, full, deep breaths, and feel that power of being fully present. And we can reflect upon the fact that we walk this journey of life together. With our parents, with our children, with our family and friends. And we can take this precious opportunity to honor the gift that we have been given. And this precious opportunity to choose how to be a beneficial presence going forward. And so as I read the 23rd Psalm, hear in these words the power of that divine spirit that universal presence and potential that is within us and all around us. Even when we feel like we can't go on, there is someone to lean on. The divine spirit that always cares. And we can also think of those people in our lives that we know we can count on. And in this moment, as we count on each other, to share this moment. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you, Mom. Amen.
Ooh.